We're getting a little bit of an upside move in the crypto markets, but it is indeed a very, very, very big day for the markets. Not only traditional crypto, you have the potential for a trap. And the reason being is because we have both CPI and the PMI data all coming out on the same day. This is unusual. Usually you have one followed by the other, but today we have both coming out on the same day, and consequently it is likely to move markets. We've taken some absolutely incredible trades. BTC long played out almost in full. We took a Zcash long as well yesterday, outlined in both the YouTube video as well as in Whale Room when I took it live. I updated everyone, printing massive profits over there. We'll have a look. Are there any other new opportunities today? So stay till the end of the video, smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. And while you're busy doing that, go and vote on the poll. I'd love to get your thoughts. Are we still in a bull market? 60% of you say most likely yes. 25% of you believe that it's really 50-50 at the moment. 8% of you say most likely not. Another 7% of you are just here for these short-term trades, right? You're a low time frame trader, which, to be honest, that 7% is probably the right way to be thinking about the market this late in the cycle. That way, you don't need to really worry, right? You just take the best trade on each day. That's kind of the approach that I'm looking at the moment. I'm not really a hodler of this market, right? In 2025, I've consolidated absolutely everything, and I just take the best trades presented on the day or week, right? So let's get into it. Dailies over here, a lot of the coins are up really, really nicely, putting in some big bounces, double digits on a lot of these things. But Bitcoin hasn't actually cleared the level that we need to see cleared, which is Tuesday's high. That's what we covered yesterday. We said despite that, still look for the opportunities. And we started to see some of the things starting to come together. Long story short, what you really want to see from the bulls is holding above $100,000, no matter how bad things get. If they can survive over the next 2 weeks without breaking $100,000 down, we may be turning a big corner. And that could lead to higher prices later on, which means that, yes, maybe the bull run is still on. My answer to that is, are we in a bull market or bear market? It is really 50-50 at the moment. You can build the case for both, and we don't have enough evidence. I said we should get that evidence over the next week or two, which we're still playing out this week. And I wouldn't be surprised if that economic data later on today does drive the next major move, right? So let's see what happens over there. With regards to the market, November for the stock market is typically the best performing, as you can see over here, marked in these bars over here since 1950, for the past 20 years, for the past 10 years, and in post-election years. A big standout over the last 10 years. November is typically for the stock market a big month, and we spoke about that correlation between crypto, Bitcoin specifically, and the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, and how Bitcoin trades like a risk asset, which means that if November is the best period and October is usually a dip buying opportunity for the stock market, which it is, then will crypto play catch up, right? Will Bitcoin play catch up and catch up to the stock market as it's pressing into new all-time highs? Well, if you want to put probabilities on your side, the answer is simply yes, it should. It should play catch up. And we still have the stock market unbelievably in fear. Fear and greed index at 28 for the stock market, while the stock market is a literal tick away from new all-time highs, like literally right there. There was your previous all-time highs, and the S&P 500 is really grinding into this. I think it's going to absolutely explode. I told you guys that yesterday. That explosion through into November might catch price up. And we'll see if this is going to be the economic event that leads to that. I know everybody wants rate cuts. I promised you that I'd bring up the chart that I forgot about. I mentioned, I think it was on Wednesday. I said I'd show you this next chart, and then I forgot to bring it up yesterday on Thursday. So now I have been reminded and remembered to bring that up. And the chart is the federal funds effective rate, and basically how the Fed has been cutting interest rates. So I want to remind you that a lot of the aggressive cutting leads into a bearish market. So if you look at the stock market started to sell off pretty much right around here in 2007 and sold off all the way through 2008 for a massive crash down into 2009 where it found its bottom, and the federal funds rate came all the way from 5.26, very, very, very similar to what we've seen now at 5.33. So that aggressive cutting, although many people are wishing for it, you need to really consider what's happened in the past. 2020, we saw the same thing. The federal funds rate, as that aggressive cutting started to come into place, we had, of course, the pandemic, with price coming down aggressively across the board over there. So if you start to see very aggressive cutting, it's usually a sign that the Fed is too little, too late, and absolutely panicking because there's deeper cracks within the markets, right? So anyways, with that being said, we'll still dance and party while the party is on, and the party is still on. The stock market should go into new all-time highs. We can have a quick look at a couple of other things. NASDAQ, same story. This is going to absolutely melt faces and just explode straight through that devil, in my opinion. We have the US small cap 1000 index, same story, price discovery, new all-time highs. We have over here the Dow Jones Industrial Average, expectation, price discovery, new all-time highs. And you would basically be betting that that correlation is going to continue between Bitcoin and the risk assets. It's important to understand, though, that if you buy into the 4-year cycle theory, we've reached the end. Timing-wise, we've reached the end. The 4-year cycle has played out. It's 3 years up and 1 year down. So this is why my positioning personally is in alignment with this 6%. I just trade low time frames. That's kind of my positioning. It doesn't matter to me whether we're still in a bull market or a bear market. But if you want my opinion is that we would probably still see continuation higher if the stock market breaks out to new all-time highs. And if we don't, well, then you have your answer that that's not a bull market anymore and it's probably over, right? So there we have it. That is your effective summary for the markets. We can get into the rest of things and look at where Bitcoin's at, the things that we're looking at to see aligned. Remember, and let me just quickly make a duplicate of this and we'll bring this across. For those of you yesterday that may have read that explanation in Discord over here that I did, dox that on the shows. This is obviously a private group, but I did showcase what I was looking at over there. And that was this full explanation over here in terms of what we want to see from the bulls and the bears, right? How we want the stars to align effectively. So I said that basically, this means bears could run it down much harder to get A and D closer in line with what I want to see. A and D is essentially, we've only seen 1 week of outflows. So if we go through to the ETF outflows over here, what I'm looking for is a couple of weeks of outflows. So the problem with that is if you do see a couple more weeks of outflows, price may have to go down a lot more for that to happen. But this is why I say that if bulls can defend $100,000 with a couple of weeks of outflows, that's going to look really, really good. And then the other point was D, right? We've had hardly any skew in the long to short ratio. What we're looking for is a greater skew on the short side to show that people are getting increasingly more bearish, but price is defending some key levels. We've seen some really good resets in the Bitcoin sentiment tracker, still in that panic environment, which is good, right? Alongside the stock market being also in fear. So we got some confluence between the fear and greed in the stock market and the fear and greed in the crypto market over here. We've seen mass liquidations. Also, something noteworthy to mention with those mass liquidations, $20 billion, remember that, right? Biggest liquidation event ever. What has happened previously following that in the coming days, weeks, and months, right? The average forward returns after massive open interest drop. Open interest will drop off when leverage gets flush. Remember, open interest refers to the leverage traders. How much interest in the sense that, you're paying interest. That is leverage. You're paying interest to hold the positions open. So how much of that interest is open? Well, if that gets flushed and they all get completely wiped out, 10 days later, on average, we see price up 3.4%. 30 days later, on average, we see price up 8.4%. 90 days later, on average, we see prices up 25.9%. And 120 days later, on average, which is about 4 months, right, we see price up 33.8%. And as of right now, we have price trading, well, we'll have to double check the percentage, but at $109,000, right? So we can actually have a look at that percentage. Where are we at about a week later? 7.63%. Let's go back to that. 7.36%. So it's about double, right? Double what we typically see 10 days later, but we need to still see how things close out for the week. So that's effectively what we're looking at. Long story short, I'm hoping to see a little bit more of a skew over here. I'm actually hoping that this news-driven event will lead to a bit more bearish sentiment and price action and get the skew negative. But I want Bitcoin to close and hold above $100,000. If it does do that and we can survive over the next 9-10 days, and I'll show you why when we get to the daily chart, then I think that will be enough of a reset to potentially turn the corner. Now, prices could turn right here, right now. All that we need to see for confirmation of that is some daily closes above Tuesday's high. Tuesday's high was the last rejective wick. It lined up and rejected exactly off of the 50 exponential moving average on the daily, and that's the level that we want to reclaim. That doesn't mean we're not taking any trades. The other thing that we're seeing a potential corner turn on is this. The daily exchange volume is starting to round up. So that was one of the things in my little post that I made over here for the Discord community, is I wanted to see that roll over or rather roll towards the upside over there. And we are starting to see that. So that's a good sign. In terms of flows, just a quick look at the altcoin sector, still massive sellers in the previous week in terms of where money is flowing. There is flows coming into BNB, which means that BNB probably continues to new all-time highs if the market catches a bid. Aster probably still does okay. It has come very close to those range lows. So it's one to keep your eye out on. And then we have Zcash. Okay, anyway, cool. I was just checking the comments over there. We have Zcash, which has been one of the trades that we long on at the moment, right? Trump, Floki, Bitcoin Cash. Personally, I wouldn't look at any of those. I would be focused on maybe BNB and that ecosystem, and Zcash, which has still shown massive relative strength. Alrighty, continuing on from there. So what we want to see is we want to see weekly closes above the yellow line or the yellow exponential moving average. That's exactly what we need to see. That could start to confirm a high low over here, macro high low. That is because if you look at Bitcoin, you got your low, your previous higher low, and then potentially this could be the next high low, which is why it's so important to defend that $100,000 territory. And if we start to break below that, yes, at that point, then you can start to skew the results to say that, maybe the top is in. So we're still on the cusp of a major expansive move. The thing is, this expansion started to take place when the Bollinger Band started to expand away from each other on the 5-day time frame, and this indicator begins to rise. That started to take place mostly of price breaking down, which means if price does start to recover, this is probably actually going to recontract again, which means you're going to start to line things up and consolidate for an even bigger move later on. And then your hopium is that's going to be towards the upside. If your weekly RSI can defend this yellow line, we expect a couple of stab throughs, possibly to like 42 to 44, holding this white line over here, and then recovering back above the yellow line at 50. And that can start to line things up for a much bigger move. The slow moving indicator will update you when relevant. Remember, your MACD is still cratering over there on Bitcoin specifically. Quick look at ETH. See ETH as well, still coming down over here on that MACD. So something to maybe be a bit cautious of. The low time frames, there's your level to reclaim. The yellow box over here simply just refers to this is your survival zone, right? If you're a bull, all you want to see is you want to see bulls defend and survive this region without losing $100,000. So even if you do come down a little bit lower, just don't close below $100,000. And if you can make it until the 4th of November, that is where I believe that the tides will shift. So everything that I'm discussing over here, we want to see those, we want to see the price levels hold at $100,000, whilst all these other things take place that I was looking for, which is, for example, a bit of a greater skew, maybe a little bit more fear coming into the market, the daily exchange volume starting to roll back towards the upside over here. That would line things up really, really nicely for basically continuation. And then you can say that there is an opportunity for maybe just one more pump in this bull run. Study the volume. The volume is important. We've been looking at it each and every single day. You can see those green bars are still relatively low. So if you can get back, I would say above Tuesday's high over there, and then maybe you flush down one more time, but the volume is still picking up on the green bars, that would be a very, very, very healthy sign. Okay. Liquidation levels on the daily, starting to build up some more liquidity on the upside. This is quite decent for the daily at 20 million, almost 20 million. That would get Bitcoin to 112,000. Remember, you want to look to the volume chart like this, where the volume spikes up, takes the liquidity, but it doesn't immediately reject. If it spikes up and consolidates, this one rejected, this one over here spiked up. You can see it hit the yellow volume pool over there, or liquidity pool, and then it held sideways. That's a good sign. That kind of creates that stutter step motion towards the upside. But also with crypto lately, it has been stairs up and elevator down. So do be careful of that and use stop losses. We want to see the USDT dominance still break down this level. The same zone applies. That is 4.56%. Anything that starts to close above the yellow line is going to create destruction within the market. It's going to be very bearish, and you have to target back up. So if we can start to see this pulling back, which it is right now, you got a golden cross over there. Oftentimes you'll see price like a magnet suck back into that golden cross. We can only get really bullish if you break below this white line over here at 4.56%. So you want to see this. You want to see the breakdown, maybe a little bit of bobbing and weaving over there, and then some rejections on a high time frame, and then you would want to see that move come down. So constantly watching this chart, a very, very, very important one. Anyway, in terms of the low time frame trade ideas, this is the one that we analyzed yesterday. I dropped it in the Whale Room Discord as well for anybody that's in there. This was the trade. You can see over here, updating it this morning, up over 100%. Everything was dropped there ahead of time. I gave my full explanation, even with a whole voice note over here to show you exactly how to actually execute this trade. So I took the trade. There's the trade. Everything is playing out. What was looking like a really bad daily for Zcash is starting to look a little bit better. If you can get like a day or two of green closing candles over here, a little bit higher, especially if you can get it to about 290 on Zcash, this is going to look really, really good. But the higher time frame breakout, is a lot higher. So even from current levels, Zcash could be moving up about 81% over here. So I've been taking this trade specifically on Gravity because we're farming that airdrop up 150% over there, and I didn't even get fully filled. I only got like 15% of the trade in. So this was off of the Whale Room Zoom. For those of you that were there, you know exactly what the trade looked like. For those of you that watched the recording, I hope you got into the actual trade in time. So everything looks good over here. I'm tracking this on the 5-minute time frame. I'll probably be a little bit cautious on Zcash and maybe even take some profits off the table as it approaches that Monday high, right? If you can get and close above the Monday high, which is going to get to that like 288, 290. Let's look at this chart. So 288, 290, you can see is also going to be, not only is it the Monday high, but it's also the top of the ascending triangle, which has a high probability of breaking out. So you might pause a little bit over there. There's even a possibility you come all the way back down, and then only later on in November, you start to break out. But anyway, that's the trade. You might notice I'm not taking too many trades. I'm keeping things pretty tight, precise, and concentrated because I just don't want to lose money. So I'm just focusing on one trade at a time. We took the Bitcoin long trade, it played out. We took the Zcash trade because we spotted this on YouTube yesterday. That's where I found it. Today we'll look for new opportunities. I can't promise that I'll find anything, but if I do, of course, we'll share it. And since I only put 15% of the capital on that account into this trade, I'll probably take it even live on the show. Okay, so we got everything in place. Well done to all of you who have participated. It's not the only trade in Whale Room. We also have Josh, who's taken some great trades on Sonic. He'll just never give up on Sonic, but Fartcoin as well, up really nicely. Both of them in massive profits. I might need to chat to him about his risk management over there, but 100x, 100x longs on both, 1600 up, and even showed the dollar amount. So he's actually making some real money over here. Josh, that means you don't need to get paid this month, which is good for you. So we'll save that for the fund, right? We'll save that for the fund. Okay, all in all, everything is looking pretty good over here. We'll look for new opportunities. For those of you that want extra trades, remember Whale Room is where other traders like Josh are coaching you guys each and every day and sharing live the real trades that they're taking. So you guys can join. There's a link in the description below if you want to jump in. And we are going to cap it, right? I want to be clear. We are going to cap Whale Room because we want to have we want to have a good group of people that have done whale school and understand the markets well and stuff when we lead into the bear market, where we're going to trade lower time frames and maybe move more into things like gold and equities and things like that, which a lot of our traders are doing, right? This is what Farouk is mostly focused on. Both Farouk and if you go through as well to Wall Street Singh, where's this section over here? Here it is. These guys are purely just trading equities and gold. So there's a lot of opportunity over there for you guys if you want to trade other stuff as well. Maybe you're doing your head in with crypto. I hope not, because that's what I talk about. And I still want you guys here. Alrighty, cool, guys. Let's go through a couple of chart requests. We'll look for opportunities within the market. Remember to use the link below if you want to participate with a multiplier effect for Gravity. So by joining into this specific team, by using that link, you join into our team, you get a multiplier effect. The earlier you are to farm these airdrops, the more money you'll probably make when the airdrop comes. So Gravity is a perpetual DEX. It's trading on zero or ZK Sync, which is zero knowledge. So there's basically complete privacy. And that's also why I'm trading Zcash as one of the privacy plays. There seems to be a whole narrative around that. So we can quickly check the portfolio. 50, this is a small account, right? Only like $800-900 that I started with over here. 56,000 in trading volume. It just shows you how easy it can be. And there's a link below that will give you an airdrop calculator. So let's quickly make an update on mine. 56,122 as per the current trades. So we'll go into Gravity 56. There we go, 56,122. So this is under the assumption that I'm getting like 0.0000092% of the share from the airdrop. $917 would be my airdrop. So you'll see there's other ones here as well. You got Based, Hyperliquid, Gravity. We got Paradox as well. You can check that one out. There's a link. We got Hyperliquid and Aster as well with links there if you want to farm them. But Gravity, I think, is going to be probably the more, the bulk of the move, right? The most of the meat is going to be in Gravity because I don't think too many people have caught on with this one. And if you want to trade these things elsewhere on a SEX, right? Of course, you have Femex as well with their $30,000 sign-up bonus. Okay, cool. So we got that out the way. Let's have a look at some of the other coins, see if we can spot any other opportunities. I'm going to start off on a high time frame like a weekly. I also want to be clear. I did say that Zcash's weekly looks bad, but that can change very quickly. If this candle turns green, then, you know, welcome to the pump. So it looked bad at one point, but if this candle starts to close up here, and we're trading at like 315, welcome to the pump. This thing's going to lead to massive continuation. Anyway, let's continue. So we spoke about Ethereum. We've spoken a lot about Ethereum lately. And I said that for ETH, you really want to see this thing trading above 4,000. Theoretically, this is a buy zone. All of this is a buy zone. I've kept saying that over and over and over again. So if you wanted the trade, look, the stop loss is very far away. It would be below that liquidation wick, but this is all a buy zone. If this candle begins to turn green, or even next week or the week after begins to turn green, then, you know, this is going to look really good for an explosive continuation, maybe up as high as $6,800, $900. That is personally my target. XRP has some work to do. Also, if you start to close some green candles here, it's not going to happen overnight. If you watch yesterday's video, I did say that most of the best confirmation buys pending this week doing well will come in next week. So the pending good buys are going to be coming next week for most of the things, but we're still taking the low time frame trades. This is just lining up the high time frame. I would need to see much more strength from Solana. We did cover that yesterday. I would also need to see a bit more from SUI. This is your major support coming down at about $2. So these are high time frame things. All the trades that we've been taking are mostly on the low time frames. Let's go into the daily because of price history reasons for pump. So you're getting a bit of a move over here, but I did cover this actually yesterday with the 𝗏𝗏 members. Following a massive move like this and a sell-off, it's not impossible, but it's very unlikely that you'll do that. Okay, there's going to be a lot of resistance over here. So the most likely outcome is that you have to spend some time here and consolidate, reaccumulate on something like pump before moving. Okay, still got work to do over here. As exciting as two green candles are, this is not out the woods yet. This, if it rolls over, could still come all the way back down on Aster and reaccumulate. That's why I'm keeping things pretty tight with the trades, one trade at a time. If I get taken out, so be it. I'll just look for another opportunity. I think this is the better way to make money at the moment. Hyperliquid needs to break this trend line, which means you probably want to see candles above $42.60, $43, somewhere around there, and then things will start to look much better. What else? Okay, how is BNB doing since the flows are still pretty good there? So big trend line, huge buildup of liquidity. I don't know. I think BNB could have put in a local top over there. I'm still leaning towards that. I think it's going to struggle to get above 1,250. So that's my opinion. I think it's going to struggle to get above here. If it breaks this trend line, you're going to go through a much deeper correction and reaccumulation. So it's still very sketchy. That the market is still very sketchy. You need to see a lot more from the bulls. Be careful leading into the CPI today. That is going to be quite a while from now. It's almost midday my time. So as of this live session, it's about like 5-ish hours from now is where all the action is going to take place. So I'll probably close some of these trades and take some profits because I'm going to be tired at that point. Okay, I'm going to be tired by the time it's been a long day for me at that. By the time we get to that, ETH BTC still looking good, still trying to put in a macro high low over here. By the way, okay, what else? Let's see if we got any other opportunities. I am looking for things actively, guys. We'll need to quickly run through the list. Let's go from, we have covered Sui, Sonic. Imagine Josh is on 100x leverage on this thing over here, but it's still good to me. For swing trade, it's got a lot of work to do over here. Say hitting key support, so it is in a theoretical bounce zone, but same thing, a lot of work, needs to get above about 24 for a swing trade. Cardano just chopping about, I would skip it. AVAX, it is at key support, but also probably could still stab a little bit lower down to about like 16. I'll probably do a video tomorrow because the CPI and all of that would have been out, would have created a bit of volatility, and then we have something new to work with. So make sure you come tomorrow, right, for tomorrow's video as well. It's probably going to be a bit more insightful than what we can do today. We have Casper still bleeding through. Looks more bearish to me than bullish. We can look at, let's just go on the weekly over here for TRX. I don't know. This thing could have topped. There's a lot of liquidity over here. When you see a massive series of high lows like this, is a big buildup of liquidity. So this thing could flush quite easily. Be careful on Tron. Okay, going on to the daily. Plasma is still getting rinsed. You need to get above the yellow line. And it's going to take time to reaccumulate. Okay, what other ones have we got? Let me just scroll through the list here, guys. Anything else that stands out? How's Useless doing? Okay, still, it's not great. It's not great. It had beautiful move. We took those trades. We absolutely coined it on this. But it's got a lot of work to do. I would just view it as range bound. There it is, range bound. Let's quickly see, where's that mid-range? So it's hanging around the mid-range at the moment. That's the white line at 26.6. But structurally, I just think that, this is going to spend some time here. It's probably going to do, a little bit of this, a little bit of chopping around that mid-range. So nothing clear over there, nothing clear, at least on the high time frames like the dailies and weeklies. What else? Let's go through the rest of the list. Anything else noteworthy over here? Okay. Let's look at this 𝗀_AI. Okay, 𝗀_AI. Let's see. So weekly is absolutely insane still. Daily still looks very strong. So it's not in a short territory just yet. This, it still looks strong. If you start to close daily candles over here above 19, it's probably going to go higher. Continuation. SPX 6900, we can go to that. Okay, SPX 6900. Right at a very, very, very key level. Similar to what I just said. What was the other one called again? Useless. Similar to Useless. It's probably going to have to chop around here a little bit. So I would expect a little bit of chop. You'll probably get some wicks that scam through into like 72 cents, 82 cents, somewhere around there. It's not positioned to pump yet. That's my it's not positioned to do this, if that's what you were thinking. All right. Okay, guys, let me check your comment section over there. Please vote on the poll. It's always useful data to see what everyone's mindset's at. 58% of you saying most likely we're still in a bull run. 26% say 50-50. 11% of you believe we already topped and we're going down. 5% of you just trade the low time frames. So I can definitely encourage you, participate. Try to take these low time frame trades. You'll see that it is a lot less stressful, right? You just get in, you take your trade, you take your profits, move stops to break even. You're risk-free. You don't have to stress over the course of the weekend, hoping that your, call it investments or swing trades, are not going to get rinsed. I still think altcoins are very risky at the moment. I think that if you want to play in the altcoin sector, sticking with the majors or the blue chips, things like Ethereum is probably going to be your best bet. Just look at the chart of XYZ altcoin versus BTC. So we can do a very quick exercise of that, like extremely quick. And we'll just say, like, is it bullish or bearish? Okay, Sol BTC has a chance similar to ETH BTC. If it can spend a few more weeks over here, defending this range, between the green and the purple lines, that is decent. As soon as you start to lose that, I'm going to call it all the way back down into the yellow box. Remember, previously we drew this out over here, and we said it's going to probably come up and hit that level. And then we said there's a chance it will come all the way back down. So far that has been playing out. But I'm willing to say that this is ready to go higher if you can defend between 0.0017 and 0.0016. Those are the levels. 𝗬𝗎 BTC is very weak. It's just bleeding straight through. So it's lost that mid-range. And this is putting in lower lows and lower highs. It's not good. Very, very, very bad. Hype against BTC is still holding up, but you need more time. And of course, I'm looking at the weekly scale over here. Litecoin against BTC, this is what you don't want to find yourself in this kind of a position. This is why, guys, I do not subscribe at all to holding any altcoin at all for multi-cycles. You know, I just don't see it. Like, this is just what it shows us. It's just such a high-risk game. Like, personally, I wouldn't do it. If I were you, I would just trade these things short-term. XRP against BTC. There's the chart. We can zoom in for more recent price action over here. Your best case scenario, in my opinion, is holding 1984, the last 4 digits, that being your range low. Link BTC, just bleeding out, lower lows and lower highs. You haven't got new closing lows, but that was a wick low. I wouldn't be surprised if this came down and filled more of that wick. 𝗬𝗎 against Ethereum is also weak, so ETH is still a better bet than 𝗬𝗎. 𝗬𝗎 against Solana. Solana is still a better bet than 𝗬𝗎 because look at that, it's bleeding through. Okay, Sol against ETH. ETH is still a better bet in my opinion. I still think this can come down back into that pink zone. Okay, Injective BTC is terrible. AVAX BTC is terrible. Cardano BTC is terrible. It's all the way at range lows. You don't even want to mention Atom or Cosmos BTC. Remember, Atom went to 0. Literally, it hit 0 against the USD pair. DOT, another example of what you do not want to do with your life savings. Okay, let this be a lesson. This is for the long term, guys, right? I'm just saying, let this be a lesson for long-term hodling of altcoins. Don't do it. All of these are going to be bad. I don't know why we're even doing this, wasting our time going through this. Casper BTC just cratering. All of these are absolutely terrible. Looks like DOT BTC, Aptos, terrible. Near BTC, terrible. There's nothing that's going to be good. I can tell you that for sure. Like, we're wasting our time. The only one that has a little bit of hopium over here is really ETH BTC, and maybe Solana BTC can hold up over here. That's it. Like, I'm telling you guys the truth. Okay, anyways, what else? All of them are going to look like this. Cardano or KDA or whatever against BTC, it's going to be the same thing. They're all going to be straight down. Gold BTC, yes, we can have a look at gold BTC. I did have that up on one of these charts. Let me just see, because I don't want to keep having to redraw everything. I think it's on this one. BTC against gold. Here it is. So BTC against gold has bounced off of that key level. If this respects TA, which I believe that it should, then I would say you're coming into resistance now. So if you can start to close multiple candles above 27.94, so let's just make it round and call it 28. So BTC measured against gold must hold above 28. Then I think it looks okay for potentially a bigger run. But for the most part, this is, yeah, I would say more downtrending than not. It's we've identified the clear range levels. It did bounce off that exact level. And now you basically want to in the short term, get above 28. In the higher time frame environment, you want to break back above the breakdown level, which is going to be about 31.60. So look, you don't need to buy the first little pump. Maybe it does something like this. Maybe it runs up here, starts to reject, comes back down, has to spend some time reaccumulating, and then you get something like that. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Cool. Let me check your guys' comments. What else? D-Bridge. You say Rand's onto something with D-Bridge. Do they have a token? I can't remember. What is it? Let me just type it in over here. Let's see. Let's go on the higher time frames. D-Bridge. 𝗔𝗶𝗿𝗃. It must be this one, right? Yeah, 𝗔𝗶𝗃 on KuCoin. Let's use that one. Okay, let's first see the weekly. So they're holding up. They obviously have some money behind them. It is holding up. 𝗔𝗶𝗃 is holding up. This is on KuCoin, which is a little bit more illiquid probably, which is why you're seeing those kind of wicks. But yeah, I mean, it is one of the better looking charts. So I can't really fault it. It's kind of got a bit of a uptrend there, but you are approaching now range highs. So this whole area over here is going to be a range high area. If you can start to get above here, like you can't buy it now, you're coming into resistance. But if you spotted this when it was respecting this trend line, you know, you got a couple of buys in over there, that's looking decent. I would need to see something like that. A little bit of time spent above 0.0366, and then maybe it's ready for higher prices. But I really encourage you, if you are taking these types of trades, like 𝗔𝗶𝗃, for example, I genuinely think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're buying not to like you know, knock 𝗔𝗶𝗃. I'm not saying anything about that token. I'm just talking about these things in general. If your plan is, hey, I'm going to buy and hold these things, and 6 months to a year, I'll just log in and check my account, can tell you 99% chance that it's going to be down. So I think that these are tradable assets to make you more money in USD or BTC terms, but it's not a long-term hold. None of these things are. Do you need to join? Here's a question from Cole Woodmore. Do I need to go into whale school before joining the Discord? No, you don't. But what I would say is that it helps. This is kind of like what we want to more move towards as we approach the end of a crypto cycle. We still believe that the market, or at least I do, I believe the markets are still very cyclical in terms of the 4-year cycle, where Bitcoin has, you know, years that go up and then a year or so that goes down. And we're playing this into a much higher time frame macro cycle, which is called the 18.6-year cycle, which also lines up with the 60-year commodity cycle. And there's a certain way that we want to play the market leading into the downturn. And it's just going to be a nightmare if we don't close the Discord, because what's going to happen is you're going to have other people that don't understand everything else. So it will help to do whale school beforehand. And we don't want all these people to come in, and it's just going to create a sour experience for everyone else, which is why we're going to lock the Discord at some point. So, I mean, I'll tell you when we're going to lock it. It's probably going to be locked at the end of November. If you want the date, it's going to be locked at the end of November. So if you want to be in before the end of November, and basically, you know, and then there'll be a waiting list maybe where we'll kind of have to like vet people in the future. And that's just so that it doesn't sour the experience for everyone else. That's the reason. Because we get people even now that come, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, by the way, but we get people that come now and they'll say like, you know, we heard like, or I read in the chat that they said, put your stop loss here. And they say, what's a stop loss? Like, so look, there's nothing wrong with that. We were all there once upon a time, but this is why going through school will help you to understand these things. And school's free. To get into school, you just go to the description. It is listed below. The first thing that you have to do is you see this little green block that says 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Click that link, sign up to 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Once you've signed up to 𝗏𝗏𝗏, you're going to get a user ID, which is over here in the top right. So under the little man picture sign, click that, copy it, go through to school. You'll get through this onto this page over here. So school is also linked below. Once you have your 𝗏𝗏𝗏 account, go to school. And that's it. It will say over here, you must sign up, but you would have already done that. See there, it says already used the banter link. You've just done that. So click unlock, go to the drop down, 𝗏𝗏𝗏, paste your user ID, submit it, deposit $100 so we know you're a real human, and that's it. You're in. Unlock access. We do cohorts every month or so. So we currently coming to the end. On Monday will be the end of this cohort. And then we have registrations currently coming in now for the next one. So as soon as we hit the threshold of people for the next one, we'll announce it and we'll launch it. And you can join that one. Okay, cool. All right, guys. We will do more altcoin requests as well for tomorrow. Please let me know in the comment section after this video. And I see this comment over here. Do you recommend compounding profits on the bots? I don't recommend it. I think that you should close those positions out that are in profit and consolidate them into things that are stronger as per what I've said now. Maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow. We'll spend a bit of time on the bots, and I'll probably consolidate things more into like ETH, for example, because we have a bias on where ETH is going to go, and we have an invalidation point where we can place our stop loss, and that's probably where you want to spend the majority of your time, in things that are it's one trade at a time. We don't want to be long-term hodlers. So let's actually do that tomorrow. Let's do a big update tomorrow on the Pinex bots, which is over here. I think that's what we can do for tomorrow. So we have a plan. Let me know as well if there's other things you want to have a look at. But tomorrow, let's make some big changes on Pinex. If you have any friends that are on Pinex who took the trades, let them know to come to tomorrow's video where we can spend time going through that. How does that sound? Okay, cool. I think that is all good. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate each and every single one of you. See you all tomorrow. And yeah, stay safe out there, trade well, and we'll see what the volatility brings with CPI, and updates on that tomorrow as well. Cheers for now.